I'm the National Youth Coordinator for Citizens Climate Lobby in the United States. And we do work in the US, but we're doing our best to broaden what we're doing to apply internationally. So with that, I'm going to share my screen and turn it over to our presenters, Nadia and Esperance.
Hello, welcome everybody to our Climate Solutions and Policy presentation. We're so happy to be here. As Sharon said, we work with Citizens Climate Lobby, and this is part one of a two-part workshop on taking big action on climate change through legislation.
Citizens Climate Lobby works to build political will in order to enact effective and just climate change legislation. We work with our members of the United States Congress. We have a sister organization called Citizens Climate International that works all around the world. Both organizations work towards effective and just climate solutions, and both organizations work to empower citizens to use their voices and be advocates for powerful legislation. We're here today to share what we have learned about doing that. We have worked in the US context, so many of our examples and images will be about the United States. But please know that these concepts can be applied across the world.
Thank you, Esperance. So we are part of Citizens Climate Lobby's National Youth Action Team. Our team is a space for those of us under 18 to connect with other youth across the country and work together to have our voices heard by our government.
I am Esperance. I am 17 years old from Florida, United States. I'm from a small town called Ocala, and I have been a part of CCL since 2021. I have gotten to be a part of many outreach events in my community. I've been published by my local newspapers, and soon I will be lobbying for the first time with Representative Kat Cammack, and I am very excited to speak with you guys today.
I'm Nadia. I'm 14 years old from Northern Virginia. I live right outside of Washington, D.C., and I've been a part of CCL for several years. One thing I've gotten to be a part of was lobbying members of my government. I hope this presentation will give you the opportunity to be a part of something that can really spark change.
So Citizens Climate Lobby has advocated for carbon pricing as the most effective way to reduce greenhouse gas emissions quickly. You probably saw how powerful putting a price on carbon is when you worked with the En-ROADS climate simulator. Emissions drop quickly when you have to pay to pollute. We advocate for the US government to put a fee on fossil fuels, collect all of the fee money, and then give it back in equal shares to the people. But we also know that there are many different kinds of climate solutions, and each country must find its own solution. We need all of it. So let's take a minute to remind ourselves of the many different possible solutions that are out there. For the next minute, please write as many climate solutions from your En-ROADS activity as you can think of in the chat. We have reducing reliance on coal, climate education for capacity building, tree planting, Climate education, thank you. Plastic pollution reduction. Plastic ban. Reducing plastic material production and usage, increased renewable energy efforts, climate change advocacy and sensitizing, increasing the use of renewables, increasing afforestation, climate awareness. Household waste management. All right, thank you guys for all of the answers. Those were all really great. Climate solutions.
Sharon, would you mind going into slideshow format?
Oh, I'm sorry, I sent that to you, Nadia. For some reason, I thought you were sharing. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, so at the top right, if you click slideshow, it'll make it full screen. And then we won't see the notes at the bottom.
I thought that's what we have. Okay, hang on a second.
We're still getting answers. We have circular economy, appreciating climate efficient buildings, climate education in rural areas, climate education is climate solution, climate restoration. It's great. Great answers, guys.
How is that now?
That's perfect, I think.
Okay, I don't know what happened. I'm so sorry.
Okay. So for a long time, Citizens Climate Lobby was focused solely on carbon pricing. We still think that making carbon pollution more expensive for companies and giving money collected from a fee back to people is the most powerful way to address climate change. And we're still working to pass carbon pricing legislation in our Congress. But now we're also working on several other climate solutions. The first one is healthy forests. Preserving and expanding forests and climate-smart forestry, as well as advocating for increasing urban forests, with the focus on neighborhoods that are negatively impacted from a lack of tree equity. The next one is building electrification, which is transitioning buildings to electricity generated from renewable energy sources instead of coal or gas for heating and cooling, as well as making buildings more energy efficient. And lastly, clean energy permitting reform. In order to make the shift to renewable generated electricity, we need to speed up the processes for building more renewable energy projects and creating ways to transmit this cleaner energy.
Taking individual actions is a great thing, and working with others in your local area to make changes is even better. But climate change is huge, and we want our solutions to match the scope of our problem. We need to act on a very large scale. This is what governments are supposed to do. So we need to turn solutions like planting trees, electric vehicles, solar and wind power into big scale programs. And in order to do that, we need policies.
So what is a policy? The definition of a policy is a set of rules or a plan that is used as a guide for actions. Your school likely has policies as well as towns and counties. They all have different kinds of policies which often become law. Policies are all around us. Let's do another brainstorm. What are some policies where you live? This time raise your electronic hand and we'll share verbally.
We have Fiona's hand was raised.
Thank you. So where I live, there was a policy that was passed a couple of years ago saying that composting is now mandatory and you have to have a compost bin somewhere on your property. So I thought that was an example of how some environmental principles are being put forward into policy.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Clara? Do you have a hand raised, Clara?
For me, Canada just issued a deep sea mining moratorium. So that was another example of a climate policy in my area.
That's awesome. Would anyone else like to share?
I think for me here in Nigeria is for the government to see climate change and to take it as main priority and to create policies like laws that that is conducive for the frontiers and also to help the people in charge to see how to create solutions to climate change. Not that every time they need to wait for when there's a disaster before the government have to sit down to make some adjustments and bring in some laws. But the implementation of the laws, there are policy around, but implementation of the policy has been a very big issue here in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Is it Colette? Do you have your hand raised?
Yeah, hi. I was just gonna say, I live in the US. I remember, I think sometime last year, the Inflation Reduction Act was passed, and part of that act was to help promote clean energy being used more.
Yeah.
Yes.
So policies might have different names: rules, covenants, ordinances, regulations, laws, but they all govern how we live together and how we use resources.
So policies guide us in our actions and they affect lots of people. So they are one of the most powerful ways to make change. In democratic systems of government, citizens agree to follow the policies, or we work on to change them, or we can work to create new policies. So here is how it works in the US, and many countries have similar processes, so don't worry about it. First, we have an idea for a solution. Let's say that the idea is putting a fee on carbon-based fuels and all the money is raised and returned to citizens. We take that idea and then we turn it into a policy proposal with details about how it would work. Then we take that policy proposal to lawmakers in the US, members of Congress, and ask them to sponsor this idea. A member of Congress who thinks this is a really good idea will then turn this proposal into a bill. In Congress, when it becomes a bill, it gets a number like HR 2307 or S1251. HR stands for House of Representatives and S stands for Senate. Then, once it is a bill, we need to find other lawmakers who support or co-sponsor the bill. Finally, when it's been reviewed by committees and have a lot of support, it gets voted on. If it passes, our solution becomes law. That's what we've been working on at Citizens Climate Lobby for the past 15 years. So we can track what's going on in the US Congress by going to the congress.gov website. Other countries have these sort of legislation trackers too. We have some of them listed in the climate policy packet we've put together. Right now, though, we're going to go check out what's going on with climate solution ideas that have turned into policies and then into bills and could be on their way to becoming law in the United States. Who has a climate solution that we can check out? Feel free to say one.
So does anyone have an example we can use to search up?
We can say some of the climate solutions we were discussing earlier, and we are going to type that in onto the website and see what kind of policies contain that solution.
Hang on 1 second, I'm trying to get there. It's not working. Okay.
Someone in the chat said energy transition policy. That could be something we could search up.
Okay, so here we are on the live site, congress.gov. And I'm going to go to legislation. And so we'll put in, what was it again?
We could put in energy transition policies or tree planting.
Tree transition. Okay, so when I put in energy transition, you'll see all the legislation that's been worked on in the past couple of Congresses. We're in the 118th Congress, so there's a resolution, there's a bill, lots of bills. So that's how you can track what's going on in Congress. What was the other one?
Tree planting.
Tree planting. Okay, so here we have lots of different things. Macadamia Tree Health Initiative, Justice for Black Farmers Act. These are all live in Congress right now. Trees Act of 2021. This is the 117th Congress, our last Congress. So this is how you can track the current legislation. Can y'all see my screen, the slideshow now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't know what happened before. Is it full screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So as climate advocates, it's important to know what elected officials are working on all over the world. So we invite you to do a mini research project on climate policy using the climate policy packet we put together. Choose a climate solution from En-ROADS. Each of the solution is described in the packet. Then go to the policy website that most interests you and put the solution into the search bar. See what comes up. It could be a lot, it might be very little. If there's a lot, you know that this is a solution that's being worked on. Next step is to look at the different policies, compare them, and see how they're written. If there isn't much coming up on your solution, think about why. Is this a solution in need of someone to champion it? You might research who is working on the solution if your government isn't. You have 20 minutes to explore, and then we'll come back and share. Are there any questions? We'll put the link to the climate policy packet in the chat. You'll need to make your own copy in order to answer the questions on the last page.